Welcome to the Tamworth FC Social, a podcast all about Tamworth Football Club. It's FA Cup first round week. I'm Jonathan. I'm joined by Brett and Graham to preview the Huddersfield Town game, and we'll also be hearing from a fan of the club. First though, Brett, Southend away on Saturday. You made the trek, didn't you? What are your thoughts a few days on?
Typical pre-FA Cup time, I guess, really. Didn't really think much of the whole afternoon, really. Thought the game itself wasn't great. Place isn't great. Stadium, less than great, to be polite. It's a difficult one, really, because it's a 2-0 loss that probably I'm not saying we shouldn't have lost the game, but I feel like we should have given it more of a go than we actually did. It was good to see the likes of Beckeray get a start, but yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. It's a bit of a non-event. I kind of thought on the way down, actually, that this has got the potential to be just one of them games that you just rather forget. And I think it probably did turn out to be the case, to be honest.
Did you have a nice trip though, Brett? That's the main thing. Was it a nice day out at least?
Well, I didn't go on the Big Dipper, so I chickened out of that one.
Fair enough. Andy Peakes described the goals that Tamworth conceded as awful goals to concede. It's kind of, I suppose, typical Graham of when people say like the National League punishes you, doesn't it, for mistakes? And you can't afford to do that, can you? In a game away at a big team.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with what he said. It was two mistakes. I still think we would have probably lost that game. Kind of let it pass us by a little bit, it seemed, really. I mean, they've got some quality up front. Curly Bond, who a couple of seasons ago was plying his trade in League One with Ipswich, and look where they are now. So it just shows the sort of difference in levels that we're talking about in this season, really. But yeah, I agree with Brad. It was just we just never really got going. Don't really know what it was, but it was we kind of we were just huffing and puffing in the second half, trying to get as many fouls as possible, free kicks, and all those things that I guess we do sometimes when we're sort of just trying to keep tight in a game. But really, when it was 2-0, maybe just let the shackles off a bit and get the ball on the ground and start trying to play a bit of football, which at times we sort of did in the first half. But it just didn't really get going at all. And whether that's because everyone's thinking about the FA Cup or it's just one of those days. I don't know really, but I mean, I don't think Southend were that great. Definitely think we've played better teams than them this season. Yeah, I suppose what's a little bit disappointing is that there's been a couple of results that kind of not gone our way, and we've dropped a few places in the league table, so it doesn't look as nice going into Ebbsfleet in a couple of weeks. But yeah, probably don't really need to worry about that at the moment. We've got such a brilliant occasion coming up, and we can just enjoy this week for what it is.
I suppose the counter I'd have to that is Southend. Their run, going into the Tamworth game was solid, like very good at the back, been keeping clean sheets, and also that middle of the National League is still quite bunched up with. You see the points tallies that teams have got. Like it's that kind of table at the moment where you win a game, you probably jump up a few places. You lose a game, you risk falling a few places. Why do we think, Graham, that Tamworth are such a different proposition when they play away from home? Because I think had this game been at the Lab, I'd have been fairly confident of Tamworth getting a win.
I think there's a few factors. I do think the pitch probably plays an aspect to it, 100%, 100%. And I think it's our home comforts and other teams we don't necessarily like playing on that pitch, and we keep hearing about it a lot. But I don't think that's the whole reason. I think we obviously the crowd and everything like that. really, really helps. And I guess we've made it a real fortress over the last couple of seasons. And I suppose when you're used to doing something and you have a habit, then it does become easier, and those players know how to play on that pitch. Whereas I think when we're going away, sometimes we're not necessarily having those same sort of comforts. Yeah, it's a difficult one, really. I still don't think I really quite know the answer myself, but it's almost like we've got an extra ounce of energy when we're at home, and we play on the front foot more. And away from home, we really just do sit back and wait for something to happen. The only time I haven't seen that is against Fylde, where I think we played some really good stuff. But I mean, it is difficult to go away and get any points in this league, so we have to set ourselves up in a way whereby I guess we kind of protect ourselves from not getting beaten to start with, and then whatever we can get, we try and get. Whereas at home, we can play on the front foot a bit more and go for it a little bit. So yeah, it's difficult to say, but that's my opinion.
Thinking back to last season, Brett, like Tamworth got results on the road. Like I'm thinking that big win at Warrington, which you went to, didn't you, Graham? Scunthorpe, of course, big away win there as well. So is it a sort of step up in quality thing, maybe, Brett?
Yeah, it's just a different concept, isn't it? It's just a completely different ball game in this league now. We've gone from riding high in every kind of aspect last season to this year being a bit of an unknown commodity. We went to certain places last season really and struggled. Hereford away, that one sticks out as a game when you look and you think, yeah, this is proper old school kind of stadium, large following, big pitch, where that probably had an impact. And obviously, it's essentially week in, week out. That's the case now. And maybe that's why we were able to play on the front foot against Fylde. It was more of an environment that we're more akin to, not many people in the stands. Fylde equally haven't been playing particularly well either. So I think we probably used all of that to our advantage.
I think it's the unpredictability of the National League, isn't it? Really, you see some topsy turvy results every week. So I think it's just how you're feeling on the day, and there's a lot of things from this weekend with the FA Cup coming up and probably travelling factors and stuff that maybe just we weren't quite at the races. So I don't think it's one we can really judge on. Probably need to see when, after Christmas where we're at with those away games.
Right, it's time to move on to Friday's game in the FA Cup against Huddersfield Town. We're very glad to be joined by Jonny from a podcast called And He Takes That Chance. Welcome, Jonny. And firstly, could you please explain the name of your podcast?
Yeah, we get that quite a bit. So in 2017, when we promoted to the Premier League via the playoffs against Reading, obviously went down to penalties. Christopher Schindler, who's a bit of a club hero for us, had the final penalty. The commentary goes, Christopher Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And then commentator pauses, Schindler scores, and then he goes, and he takes that chance. So it's kind of a bit of a cult moment, cult commentary for the football club. So that's where the name's derived from that piece of commentary.
Maybe Tamworth can write their own this weekend. Big on TV.
Absolutely.
Are you aware that the game's sold out? Have you got your ticket yet?
I've got my ticket. Yeah, one of our fellow podcasters was Brighton Breezy. He was there at 7:15 with his laptop while I was kind of working and queuing. So got on to him quick to get me a ticket because I thought we'd take up I thought we'd sell out. We were like 790 odd, and I thought we'd be quite keen. So yeah, I was kind of quite fortunate to get on him early to get me a ticket in the old-fashioned way, queuing up rather than relying on the website.
How much interest has this game actually got for Huddersfield fans?
It does. It's twofold, really. Do you know? I think Huddersfield Town we're quite a realistic fan base. We've not been National League, but we've been to League Two. We've kind of seen the heights of the Premier League, and we've seen the lows of League Two. It's a proper game of football, and we'll respect it in that way. And I think Huddersfield Town are in one of those situations with it live on BBC where we can't really win. We can only
Yeah.
really kind of just do par or lose. Kind of how Tamworth can't really lose. They can either be it like the giant killers or have a relatively good showing, and it's kind of fair due. So there is serious interest. Our season was slightly derailed by the EFL Cup loss to Warsaw, which then we had 4 straight defeats after that. So I think Town fans are a little bit concerned about kind of if we've put a few kids in and that happens and it kind of derails the league season. So I think Town fans are quite keen to not have an upset, but also not let it affect the league season as well. So there is serious interest.
I remember the Tamworth, the Lamb selling out once before, which was against Stoke. That's the only other time I can ever think of the Lamb selling out. So big game.
I don't think I can remember another time it selling out other than when we played Stoke City, which was about 2005, 2006 season, something like that. So I mean, that's just going back up. That was FA Cup third round replay. Just wondering, how much do you know about Tamworth, and if any of your fans have sort of done any of their research and seen how we play and stuff.
I did only just a little bit, kind of when we drew you. So I follow Torquay, a bit of a National League team from a long story, so I won't go into that. So I'm kind of all fair with the National League. Obviously, they're National League South now. And we drew Tamworth. I've not come across Tamworth before, having, I guess, it kind of obviously north, come through the north rather than the south, but obviously the National League. So I did look, obviously, seeing you kind of had back-to-back promotions into the National League, doing well in the National League, which is no mugs league, quality football and full-time professional teams in there. So to be sat where you sat, having had 2 promotions back-to-back as well, is quite impressive. So other than that, kind of not too affair with players, etc., style of play. But from watching many games at National League level, it's not a kind of like hoof and kick and physical league. It's a proper footballing league. So you get teams that do kind of look to pass out the back, play it on the deck, and play nice intricate football. So again, in our podcast last night when we recorded it, I said if we're going there thinking it's going to be, do you know what I mean, a shoe in for Town, it's that league. It's got quality teams, and from teams that you've seen who've made it to the Football League and stayed or gone on to the League One, of which there's quite a few names you can point to. It just shows the quality of football clubs in that division.
Who are some of your star players, Jonny, that you would say Tamworth fans should be afraid of, so to speak?
Well, they're all injured, so we've got about 6 or 7 first teamers who are all out at the moment. But the players that have come in have looked to step up. We've got, to name a few, so we've got a young lad on loan from West Ham called Callum Marshall, who he's a Premier League academy player, but he's really kind of rough and ready. He's quite slight, not too short, but kind of shorter for a football. He's a striker, but he's really kind of quite physical, good turn of pace, good can score first time, good striker. I'd certainly watch out for him. In midfield, we've got Herbie Kane, who's a really good ball player, likes to play with his ball at his feet, can slide a pass and see space. So I guess if there is space left by the time he'll look to pick players out. And then Matty Pearson, like I said, he's a kind of goal scoring centre back at the moment. Really strong, physical, fast to the ball when it's in the air. Like set pieces, we've become quite dangerous in recent games. So again, if it's a good set piece whipped in, Matty Pearson, kind of person thrives in the bat and loves to get his head there first. So there's players kind of throughout the team to watch out for. The more named players probably won't be playing because they're not fit. So I guess that might be an opportunity for Tamworth, but there are still some good players to watch out for.
So the moment of truth, Jonny, could we get your score prediction for the game on Friday?
I think with the way Duff likes to play, he does like to kind of control the game. He'd quite happily take a goal, control it, take another goal and control it. So I don't necessarily see it being a 3-4-5. I think Tamworth have definitely got it in themselves to hurt Huddersfield as well. We are doing well with clean sheets at the moment. We've kind of kept 4 clean sheets in the last 5, and I hope to maybe look to continue that. But I think if to push me, I'll probably say a 2-0 Huddersfield, but quite a fair game, but the Town to come out on top.
We'll leave it there, Jonny, then, if that's all from you. Thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy your visit to Tamworth on Friday evening.
I shall do,
Let's
yeah.
let's hope for a good game.
Brilliant. Cheers, much appreciated.
So, Brett, after all your references to this game and our last episode, it's finally your time to shine. What's your outlook on this one? Has chatting to Jonny, given you more positivity or made you a bit more pessimistic?
Huddersfield like to control the game, he said. Well, we like to allow the opposition to control the game. That's fine. Bit concerning that they're obviously on a decent run of clean sheets. So I think that's obviously where, being the lower division side, we're always going to struggle with, because it's always harder to break a team down who's a couple of leagues higher. Interesting that they're not looking at it as a game that they feel really confident about. I thought that was quite refreshing as well, actually. But I don't know if that makes it slightly more of a task for us then, because it means if they're taking it that little bit more seriously, then be less less room for error than if that's the case. But look, anything can happen on the night, can't it? And I think it's sold out. It's got a feel of a real FA Cup night. And if there's one thing that Tamworth are good at, it's the FA Cup.
Trying to think, Graham, what would you compare this game to in terms of like how big an occasion it is? So I make it that Bury was the last FA Cup winner to play like a competitive game at the Lamb, or at the very least an FA Cup game at the Lamb.
But in terms of an occasion, I think it's kind of comparable to when we won the league last season in terms of, I don't know if I'd arguably say that was a bigger occasion, because the achievement of what we've done over the past 2 seasons and getting back into the National League is arguably a bigger achievement overall with what we're talking about. In terms of one night, though, and a one-off, yeah, it's the biggest occasion in terms of exposure for the club in some years. Well, going over 10 years, I would say. Whenever we played Norwich on the telly, so I can't remember what year that was, but it was around about 2013, I think.
2007, I think you might be thinking of Bristol City.
Oh, sorry, that was bad. My FA Cup knowledge isn't yeah, that was terrible.
Fan.
Oh, you bloody armchair fan. Yeah, so to me, it's probably the biggest occasion since then.
Huddersfield are a massive club, I would say. We sort of touched upon it when the draw was made, talked about like maybe the other clubs that are bigger or as big. But I mean, this is a club who's been champions of England 3 times, won the FA Cup, and all before Tamworth Football Club even existed. These grand old clubs of English football, I think it's still quite sort of like a pinch yourself moment almost when you sort of think, well, we're facing them in a competitive game.
Yeah, just going back to Graham's point before around the occasion, I would say that this tie is an amalgamation of the work that we've done in the last kind of 2.5 years. The occasion marries well with the 2 league wins. That's now why we're here where we are. We need to make the most of it. It's nice to be playing these, like you just said, these grand old teams of traditional football clubs as well, with some proper history. And I'd probably put it down, if anything, it's given the size the crowd's going to be, which has really, really shocked me, actually. It's got the potential to be as big a class as the Stoke game. So I'm really hoping that the occasion on Friday is just enjoyed and made the most of by everyone, fans, players, officials, everyone, the town, anyone watching on the telly, and who's just got a passing interest in the FA Cup. I just think it's could be a really special night all round, one not to be missed.
Compared to where we were 5 years ago, and I remember us I remember listening in on the radio to us celebrating an FA Cup second or third qualifying round win. I think it was second qualifying round against Hereford away on penalties. To now being back in the FA Cup first round and mixing with the big boys again. I think it's it's just really nice to be back amongst it, and to be getting exposure again. It seems like such a long way off a few years back, so it is very much a pinch yourself moment. And long may it continue. Really, hopefully, we can stay in the National League and we can keep consistently getting to first and second rounds of FA Cups again, like we were. Because it is exciting, and I guess from a revenue point of view, this is going to be a really important step for the club as well. I've no idea how much we get out of it from the TV, but it's going to be decent. That could probably help set us up for next season in terms of signings, whatever those plans are in terms of if we're staying part-time, if we go hybrid, all of those things. It's a really important part of a non-league football club. So I just think it's great that we're getting it. We've got full house and all of that exposure, all that good stuff that comes with it. And then from a money point of view, where it's that one night sets us up potentially for the next couple of seasons. Andy Peake should get a bit of a bonus maybe as well. So who knows?
Just something one of you mentioned a few minutes ago, like the journey Tamworth have been on. So when Huddersfield Town were last in the Premier League in 2018-19 season, Tamworth, that was their first season in the Southern when they got relegated from the North. That was 6 divisions, I think, between the two sides, and now there's only 2, which I think is just obviously the FA Cup is brilliant, but it's just when you think the difference that those few seasons have made since, that was quite interesting. Right, it is time for our FA Cup predictions. Last time out, I was the only one to predict a defeat at Southend United, and I got the 2-0 scoreline exactly correct. Brett is not happy with that, I can tell you. Neither is Graham. It means I move up to a whopping 21 points in our predictions mini league. Graham is on 11, Brett is on 8.
Keep the faith.
Running away with it.
I was thinking earlier that it's not going to last, is it? Because I mean, this is kind of, I don't know. At the start of the season, I was like, it's got to be beginner's luck, and then my pessimism is paying off.
Open up an absolute massive gap now. I'm going to call that that.
Maybe this is the start of the comeback for you both on Friday. A reminder: 1 point for a correct result, 3 points for a correct scoreline. I think to make this just a little bit more straightforward, let's say the scoreline will stand whether or not it goes to extra time, whether or not it ends on 90 minutes, whether or not a team wins on penalties. So if we said, for instance, it's going to end 5-5 and Tamworth won on penalties, it would be the 5-5 that counts. Not expecting either of you to go 5-5, but a man can dream. Right. I will go first, as I feel like this is a really tricky one to predict. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. I don't really know what my prediction would be if it goes to penalties. But as I've just said, luckily I don't need to worry about that. Graham, would you like to go next?
Yeah, it's interesting that you say 2-2 because that score kind of flashed through my head a few times this week. But I'm not going to do the same scoreline. I'm probably going to go for who won defeat. that's not what my heart says, but that's what my head. So my heart probably would say a 2-2, but my head says 2-1 to Huddersfield. I think we will do everything we can to frustrate them, and I think we'll score because we're at home, and we usually score when we're at home. But I think Huddersfield will probably break us down, and I think it will be a normal time as well. So I'm going to go, Tamworth 1, Huddersfield 2, and I think that would be a respectable result. For me, that would be a good result if we hold them for a long period. And then I guess it's kind of like that fitness quality thing. But who knows? All of those things: 3G pitch, tight ground, hostile atmosphere. Their manager's going to get tons of abuse, I'm sure. Who knows? But realistically, 2-1 to Huddersfield.
Brett?
I am going to go for a 2-1 to Huddersfield. I'm going to go for that because I can see Huddersfield scoring fairly early on, and then I can see us growing back into it before half time. And then I think right towards the end, they're going to break us down, and we will just struggle to hold them back. And I think they'll get a late goal, and that's absolutely no shame against us. I hope that's not the case, because I hope we win 2-1, 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, whatever. I don't care. But I just think it's about the occasion, not the result.
Right, we will leave it there for this episode of the Tamworth FC Social podcast. Thank you very much for listening. You can follow us on social media at TFC Social Pod. If you enjoy the podcast, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel and give this episode a like. It really helps us grow our audience. Till next time, goodbye.